Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, good morning. In my function of acting coordinator of the UNESCO World Water Assessment Programme, I feel honored to represent UNESCO in this important event on water and gender in Korea and be together with the high-profile expert invited here today. I would like to start with congratulating the Republic of Korea for its 70th anniversary of accession to UNESCO in 1950, when Korea became its 55th member state. This union with UNESCO sowed the seeds of peace and hope through cooperation and education, helping Korea to rebuild and recover after the Korean War. UNESCO supported Korea to educate people, young and old, who would push the country's future away from poverty and destruction. Soon after, Korea transformed from a country in need for help to a country extending help to other member states in need, and actively joined forces with UNESCO to achieve world peace, sustainable development, and equality. A great example of the Korean contribution to the international community is the UNESCO International Center for Water Security and Sustainable Management, the first Category 2 center in Korea under UNESCO Natural Science Sector, established to assist developing countries with their water security strategies through its research, education, and global networks. Since its start, UNESCO has always been at the forefront to support women's rights, women empowerment, and gender equality. During the 34th session of the General Conference in 2007, UNESCO committed to place gender equality at the heart of its mandate as one of the two global priorities for UNESCO. By doing so, the organization pledged to make a positive and lasting contribution to women empowerment and gender equality on the global scale. The organization follows a dual approach of gender mainstreaming and gender-specific programming in its major program areas, being education, sciences, culture, communication, and information. In the field of education, UNESCO addresses gender disparities and promotes equality through participation in, within, and through education by improving access to education, improving the content, context, and practices, and ensuring proper learning outcomes and work and life opportunities. In the field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as we all know, we are still dealing with a critical underrepresentation of women. In order to address this, UNESCO works towards providing strong role models for women, as well as developing women's capacity and supporting, promoting the contribution of women to scientific knowledge generation and dissemination to advance sustainable development. For instance, since 1998, the UNESCO L'Oréal for Women in Science partnership continues to celebrate role models from all over the world and to support and inspire women and girls to engage in and pursue scientific careers. Overall, UNESCO places special emphasis on the needs, expectations, and aspirations of women in disadvantaged positions, as well as develop men's and boys' capacity to advocate for gender equality. UNESCO aims to guarantee freedom of expression for all and ensure equal participation, access, and inclusion through unique initiatives in the fields of culture and communication, contributing to better understand and address the challenges of our increasingly diversified societies and work to build lasting peace. These objectives are realized through the implementation of individual and institutional capacity development, advocacy, and awareness-raising research and knowledge management. In line with UNESCO Global Priority on Gender Equality, the World Water Assessment Programme has worked since 2014 to advance gender equality and women's empowerment in the water sector. WWAP's work has mainly focused on the development of a baseline methodology, indicators and tools for the collection of sex-disaggregated water data, capacity development on gender mainstreaming, data and policy making. This because sex-disaggregated data is key to make effective assessment of how women and men experience access to water and sanitation differently. Without it, it is not possible to fully measure progress towards the achievement of the SDGs or to get a complete picture of gender equality advances. In contrast, sex-disaggregated water data are among the least available across the national level indicators. Its lack is a major obstacle to the production of scientific evidence on gender inequalities related to water and to the formulation of policies and programs that tackle those inequalities. It is therefore of crucial importance that we mind the data gap and bridge it by increasing the availability of sex-disaggregated data in the water sector. In 2015, WWAP released the first edition of its toolkit on sex-disaggregated water data, forming the first ever initiative aiming to achieve a global standard for gender-responsive water assessment, monitoring and reporting. Later on, the lesson learned in the field test carried out in Southern African countries in 2016, the issuing of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, as well as the recognition of the interlinkages among its different goals and targets were key for us to produce in 2019 a second edition with 4 reinforced tools. The first tool contains 105 gender-responsive indicators for water assessment, monitoring and reporting in 10 priority topics. The second, a methodology for the collection of sex-disaggregated water data. The third, the guidelines for the field surveys. And finally, the first contains the questionnaires with over 360 questions for data collection. The 4 tools are designed to collect scientific evidence to help decision makers adopt data-driven water policies and programs that tackle gender inequalities and reach those left behind. The 2 versions of the WWAP toolkit have received recognitions on a multitude of occasions, from the endorsements of the Member State Council of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Programs in 2018 to its adoption as reference tool for gender analysis in the Global Environment Facility International Water Project since 2015. Many countries are in need of support to strengthen skills in collecting and analyzing sex-disaggregated water data to inform policy making. Therefore, UNESCO WWAP offers countries or region-specific trainings. Special focus goes to SDGs interlinkages and highly relevant topics such as gender and water scarcity, employment, migration, and groundwater governance. One of these workshops was organized last year in Bangkok in partnership with the UNESCO International Center for Water Security and Sustainable Management and the 2 UNESCO regional offices for Asia and Pacific located in Bangkok and in Jakarta. WWAP and the i-WSSM Center work together to provide a training on gender analysis in water management and governance, targeting key officials from ministries and institutions from 8 Asia-Pacific countries. All this was possible thanks to the support of the Republic of Korea. The timing of this roundtable event on gender and water falls in a critical moment. This year holds a pivotal position in the progress towards gender equality, as it marks 25 years since the agreement of the Beijing Declaration and the related platform for actions, which constitutes a blueprinting for the progression of women's rights. Simultaneously, 2020 marks the 10th birthday of the Human Rights to Water and Sanitation and follow-up resolutions, and also the 10 years countdown to the completion date of the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. In light of this pivotal role of 2020, WWAP is undertaking an assessment on the progress made in the field of gender equality in the water domain, with preliminary results indicating we are far from being on track with the promises made. A clear gap remains evident between policy commitments and the actual practice for achieving them. For instance, despite the progress that has been made in the field of water access and sanitation, approximately 2.2 billion and 4.1 billion people still lack access to safely manage drinking water and sanitation services, and more than 3 billion people in the world lack access to the basic hand hygiene. Inadequate water access and sanitation infrastructures put women more at risk of contracting waterborne diseases from contaminated water sources, to fall ill with preventable infections, or to several forms of gender-based violence. However, such gendered impacts extend to the fields of poverty, economy, education and training, migration, and so forth. There is an urgent need of accelerating efforts in view of the year 2030 deadlines, and to create a coordinated call for action, while assessing in more detail the progress or the lack of progress for the achievement of gender equality in the water dimension, identifying gaps and solutions, and formulate concrete recommendations. This in-depth assessment is currently under development and is set to provide an overview of available data on the topic of gender equality and empowerment of women in the water sector, with a critical look on the progress made so far. Further, it will recommend some viable solutions to speed up progress towards gender equality in water, in line with the UNESCO objectives contained in its Priority Gender Equality Action Plan, and aims to answer to the call of the UN Secretary General to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. To this end, WWAP has activated a multi-stakeholder water and gender working group composed of experts from several international organizations, UN agencies, women groups, international universities, thereby bringing on board knowledge from the different fields related to gender and water. UNESCO WWAP is looking to receive the support of member states, academia, women and youth scientist networks, and in particular of the UNESCO Water Family Network, including the centers and the chairs. We would like to extend our invitation to the International Center for Water Security and Sustainable Management, supported by the Republic of Korea, for joining us and our partners to launch this important call for action during the year 2021. With regards to this roundtable, on behalf of UNESCO WWAP, I'd like to express our enthusiasm for today's event and truly hope it may be the first of many similar events to come. Once more, I wish to thank the International Center for Water Security and Sustainable Management and the Republic of Korea for the excellent partnership and collaboration on water, and more specifically on this very topic of water and gender. Looking at the future, we wish to reiterate our commitment to join forces on further progressing gender equality in the water sector of the Asian region. Together, we can and we must close the gender gap to have fair water opportunities for all. I thank you deeply for your attention and wish you all a pleasant event and fruitful discussions.